Huge news today, guys. Big news out of Chevrolet for the C8 Corvette ZR1. This thing just continues to impress, and today is no different. We get some really awesome information from Chevrolet in a really cool video talking about just how fast the C8 Corvette ZR1 is around some very special tracks, and it's impressive. Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Thanks for pressing play. This is the channel you want to be on if you are looking for any kind of Corvette news, Corvette maintenance, Corvette tips. If it's Corvette related, we're talking about it here on this channel. Today, we're talking about the C8 Corvette ZR1. I'm going to put up the video from GM that shows all of the interesting information, but we're going to kind of break it down because even though it is really awesome information, they failed to kind of show us exactly what we're comparing all of this to. So without further ado, let's play the video.
We knew when we built this car and when we started driving it, this car was going to be brutally fast. No matter where we took it.
We all talked and said, what if we had separate tracks that we could go show how dominant this car was?
We want to pick these extremely prestigious, very famous tracks. We're not shying away from the fact that the race cars have been there and people know those lap times. We're not shying away from the competitive times that are out there.
It's a big undertaking to rent tracks across the country and travel people and ship parts and cars. It's not for the faint of heart.
We want to set the bar extremely high. We're not trying to make this easy on ourselves. As development drivers, we don't do this stuff that often. Most of what we do is you're purposely leaving some capacity in the car, right? You're trying to remember, here's the issues I had, here's what I need to go fix. It's very different when you're trying to do a fast lap, and every 10th matters.
It's got 1,000 horsepower. It's got the most downforce we've ever put on a Corvette. We created a monster.
Balancing development driving versus outright pace driving, it's something you have to learn because you want to drive underneath the car. You don't want to drive at the maximum effort of the car until it's time to do that.
There aren't many times where you get to get in a car and just run a lap record.
But given one chance, you do get that opportunity to full send. What can you do?
This is Road America Fast Laps Day 2, Brian Wallace in 34-35.
It's known for being a pretty challenging track because the speeds are ridiculous. I think we're over 178 miles an hour 3 times on that track per lap. Road America is known to have a corner called the Kink. Not a lot of margin for error. There's been a lot of spectacular accidents there, and from all my racing background, I was very familiar with the corner and knew how to immediately approach the corner to get the maximum out of the car. For me, that was definitely one of the most challenging parts of the track because it leads onto a relatively long straightaway. Any min speed you lose in that corner translates the whole way down straightaway. So getting the most out of the car through that corner was really important to maintain a really good fast lap time there. What the ZR1 did for me to go find that 5.2 seconds above and beyond the record, the amount of downforce this car makes on the high-speed corners and the approachability and everything we did in the setup of this car to make it approachable, it only took me 3 attempts. And on the 3rd attempt is when I ran the 208.6.
Okay, so very interesting right off the bat. Gotta love this car in motion, but this is Brian Wallace behind the wheel, and he ran a 208.56 basically on that track at Road America. Now, why this is interesting is because the next closest, which I'm surprised they wouldn't have put this in the video to show you exactly what the beastly ZR1 is beating, because it just beat a 2023 GT3RS. Yes, the Porsche GT3RS is taken down by the ZR1, and it's taken down pretty significantly. So the Porsche GT3RS puts down a time of 213.8, while the ZR1 is putting down the 208.56. Yeah, very significant time difference there. So over 5 seconds difference in these times. And that is huge on this track. So right off the bat, this thing is an absolute beast. It is killing the competition. This is absolutely fantastic to see as a Corvette fan, guys. It doesn't get better than this. This is absolutely huge news, but let's move on because there is more.
Let's go!
With Watkins Glen in a car that's this fast, it ends up falling to a lot of rhythm. The corners have a decent straight between them, but this car is so quick that all those corners become linked. So at Watkins Glen, you get to the bus stop after a long uphill run. You brake for the bus stop at peak speed. But from there, it's left, right, left, right. And the straights between turn 6 and 7, they look long with how fast it gets speed. You exit turn 6 and you're immediately into turn 7. You get out of turn 7 and you're up over the hill and you're immediately into turn 8. You come out of turn 8 and you're immediately into turn 9. It's just one after the other after the other. This car's got great flow and it transitions really well, so getting in and out of those left to right combinations, this car's really strong.
So stopping this one, I was unable to really find a lot of information on the Watkins Glen track as to production car times that just really blew minds. But one thing did stand out based on some of the things that I was reading, and that was over at Haggerty.com, they flat out say there isn't much precedent for production car lap times at Watkins Glen, but the team felt that it was important to plant their flag at what they consider one of the nation's most storied tracks. On this course, the ZR1 saw its highest lateral G, which according to the Chevrolet's footage, peaked at 2.6. Oh my God. Anytime I see that lateral G at 1.2 or higher, you are pulling some serious lateral Gs. 2.6. That's insane.
This is Road Atlanta Fast Laps Day 1, first attempt in red car, Chris Barber driving.
Road Atlanta is probably my favorite in the country. There's some very fast sections. The track is known for challenging cars with big power. There's two corners that really shined for the ZR1. It's turns 1 and turn 12, which are both extremely high-speed right-handers. Turn 1 is a somewhat blind turn-in. You have to go in committed to the speed, and then it's a huge confidence corner where you just really need to know and trust that the car is going to stick. It's very similar with turn 12, which is probably their most iconic corner. You're coming up a very steep hill and you go under their bridge, which then drops downhill quite a bit. So it's this blind uphill that's pretty much at max lat. You drop over the hill crest down the hill and you're basically looking right at their building and a giant wall. That's extremely intimidating.
So in this one, we have Road Atlanta with Chris Barber behind the wheel. He puts down a 1:22.8 track time. This one's really awesome because this is another really well-known track, and this one has a lot of really fast production cars on. So what production car did the ZR1 beat? The even faster GT2RS. So yes, not only has the ZR1 taken down the GT3RS, it now took down the GT2RS by over 2 seconds on this same track. So the GT2RS puts down a 124.88, while the ZR1 is putting down a 122.85. Now, where things are really going to get interesting, I'm going to want you to watch till the end of this video because there's something even more interesting going on here with these times. And we're going to talk about it all after we get through the GM video here. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this.
Yeah.
The ZR1 just really shined there.
I was the lucky guy that got to do 2 laps, and it's mostly because at Virginia International Raceway, both configurations are pretty well known. So the full course, the perimeter course, is the traditional course there. The grand course is what Car and Driver started with, trying to emulate a Nürburgring within our country. One element, just the way we laid the schedule out, I was last. Right? Everyone else had done their job. So that's, a little added pressure when you're the anchor leg, essentially, that everyone else is beating their PR split, and you're coming in and, gonna finish the job. For VIR on the full course, the most demanding section is the high-speed S's. They are this flowing, really high-speed area where it's 165 miles per hour in this car turning in. So you have to be very precise on your marks. And then at the end of that is, to me, the hardest turn. It's called South Bend. And so to set that up, you have to get far enough right coming off of a right-hand turn. So you kind of have to pinch the exit but not give up speed to brake quickly and then turn in on this off-camber, really fast turn. So I was really happy that when I looked at the data, this car never dropped below 100 miles per hour there, which is something significant. You have to turn in with confidence.
and technically the last two. And this is going to be where things get really interesting, because on the Virginia International Raceway, the full track, he was able to put down 147.74. And that bests the next fastest car I could find on the Virginia International Raceway full track was the Ford Mustang Shelby GT500, driven by Randy Popst, and he put down a 156.3. So roughly 9 seconds faster than the next fastest car on the full International Raceway. Now, where things get even more interesting here, and this gets really interesting, is when we look at the Virginia International Raceway Grand Course time, because that's the second time you're seeing on the screen here. That is 232.3 that he was able to put down in the C8 ZR1. Now, why that's so important is because that number actually beats the 789 horsepower McLaren Senna's number. Yes, the McLaren Senna. That same car that's over $1 million. Yeah, that Senna. That one put down a time of 234.9. So again, we are 2.6 seconds faster than a car that literally will cost 4 to 5 times as much as the ZR1. So yes, these are really, really impressive numbers. Now, like I said earlier, we are going to talk about something even more impressive here in a second. I'm going to let this video finish out. We'll come right back here in a second to talk about why this is all so absolutely fantastic.
You know, where this ranks both from a personal and a professional standpoint, it's second to none.
Mission accomplished. We went 5 for 5. These are obscenely big gaps that we just threw down on every track we picked.
It absolutely cements what the ZR1 is.
Now, one more thing you guys might remember from 2019, whenever the C7 Corvette ZR1 came out, they were actually warming up the tires on the Virginia International Raceway, the Grand Course, and accidentally, quote unquote, accidentally broke a record that was held at the time from the Ford GT. Now, this is interesting because their record beating time at that time was 237.2. Now, this is interesting because obviously the new ZR1 did it in 232.3, so almost 5 seconds faster. Now, to put that in perspective, guys, the C7 Corvette ZR1 is not exactly a slouch. 755 horsepower, front engine drive, big wing, 1,000 pounds of downforce at speed, 212 mile an hour top speed. It's not a slouch of a car. And the new C8 ZR1 is doing it 5 seconds faster. Absolutely insane. All right, so if you guys are like me, you are super pumped for this car at this point. Super excited. This thing is an absolute beast. Every time I get some new information from Chevrolet about this car, it's always something absolutely mind-blowing, and this is no different. These drivers did this, and most of them did it within 2 or 3 attempts. This is not something that they spent 3 weeks at each track trying to accomplish. They were able to do this with 2 or 3 times out on the track with this car. Now, where things get really interesting, the stuff that I was telling you guys to come back here for, is some of the actual details of all this, because the biggest driver of why this is so awesome, these times are so amazing, is that the records were achieved here not by professional drivers, but by race licensed Corvette engineers. So these are not professional race car drivers. Imagine what kind of times you could get with this car if you put a professional race car driver behind the wheel. These are the actual engineers for the car. For example, Brian Wallace, who set the Road America lap, is the lead vehicle dynamics engineer. So he is putting down ridiculously good times on a racetrack, beating records, and he is not a professional race car driver. That by itself blows my mind. Moving on though, the records in this video were all set with the Corvette ZR1 ZTK packaged car. So it does have the same Sport Cup 2R tires that you would get if you bought the car with the ZTK package, the same high downforce carbon fiber package with the big wing and everything. You get all the exact same stuff. None of it has been altered for these track driving events. So the cars that they're driving are the exact exact same car you could be driving if you bought one. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with exactly what the ZTK package is, obviously it gives you that big wing, all the downforce with the aero package, but it also stiffens the suspension for better handling, and it also gives you those Cup 2R tires. But that's it. This video was literally done with the exact same car that you could get, and it was done with non-professional drivers, just race-licensed Corvette engineers. Absolutely mind-blowing, guys. This is going to be one of the best Corvettes ever. I can't wait to get my hands on one. I'm imagining you guys are probably the same way, but either way, guys, smash the thumbs up button if you liked what you saw here. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We're going to have a ton of ZR1 news coming that you're not going to want to miss. And as always, guys, stay obsessed.